Two for Chirping in 2023. And we've got Beck Warm. What's going on, Warmy?
Not much. Thanks for having me. I'm a big podcast guy, so nice to be on one. Yeah.
A big conspiracy guy, too?
A little bit sometimes, for sure.
You took me into there. Okay.
Yep.
I'll ask you about the last one, but let's talk about pods. Since you said that, what are you listening to?
Listen to the occasional Joe Rogan if there's something interesting I want to hear.
He's my guy.
Yep. And then maybe some Tim Dillon sprinkled in there.
Okay, yeah, Tim Dillon's fine.
Yeah, and then if I'm with my girlfriend in the truck, it's a lot of Dateline.
Dateline?
Yep.
They
Yeah.
have a podcast?
They do, and yeah, the girls love to hear about murder mysteries, so
Yeah.
I'm usually forced to listen to those ones.
Okay, so when you, all right, I think you're my kind of guy when you mention Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon, because since the pandemic and since Rogan moved to Texas, Tim Dillon's on there a lot more.
Yes, he is.
You know, he's one of those guys that I think comes in a lot. Like I think of like Tom Papa.
Yep.
You see him a lot. Protect Our Parks.
Yep.
With Ari Shafir and some of the other guys I cannot think of their names right now. Are you, because you said depending on the guest, do you watch Joe Rogan if it's like the Neil deGrasse Tysons of the world, or do you like watching the comedians, or is it a bit of both?
Usually it's a bit of both. Honestly, like if it's someone that I know and I want to listen to, I'll listen to the whole thing. But a lot of the time, I'll throw it on for 20, 25 minutes. And if I don't like the way the guy sounds, or if he's not a good talker, if it's just not interesting, I'll usually shut it off. But
Okay.
yeah, no, usually more podcasts than music. So
So one of his guests is Theo Vaughn.
yeah, big Theo Vaughn guy.
Okay, have you
Yeah.
been listening to this past weekend?
I listen to the
Podcast?
one occasional. Yeah.
Okay. I've learned how funny he is. I went to see him here in Cincinnati. He was here like a year and a half ago or something. He's coming to Indianapolis soon.
Really?
Yes. So I'll have to keep an eye out on that
Yeah.
one.
Does he put on a good show?
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy. I mean, his humor is good. His humor is different. I think
Yeah.
when I first watched him, I was like, I don't know, but like I've learned to like him. I think one of my favorite podcast episodes of the last few months, though, because to compare, I listen to Joe Rogan pretty much the same as you. Like, I enjoy the people who aren't even funny. Like your Ben Shapiro's, Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
That podcast I thought was crazy. There's a couple that I won't, just because like I read the person's biography and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not into that. But I think the funniest episode I've watched in the last few months is when he was a guest on is it Andrew? No, not Andrew Schultz. Is it Flagrant?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you watched this one?
I don't think so. I've listened to a lot of the Andrew Schultz, but it's I find him hilarious too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I highly encourage
Yeah.
watching this one.
Yeah.
Watching the video. It's so funny. Like I put on podcasts to go to sleep usually. I listen to them regularly, but then at the end of the night, I like to put one on to sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Maybe in my head, I think like my brain is still processing information as I'm resting. But that was one I had to like turn off because I kept looking back to laugh and like watch what was happening.
Yeah. Have you seen the Andrew Schultz, like his Netflix one where he has like, I think they're like 20-minute episodes, and I think there's like 4 of them back to back there where he just goes off rapid fire.
No.
Just on every subject.
No.
It was kind of like right after, it was probably in 2021. So it was like right after like the pandemic and after everything started to calm down. And he basically had like 4 main issues that he broke down, and he breaks them down just like rapidly. Like each episode's about like something else.
Okay.
And it's just, it is so funny.
Do you like? I can't believe I'm blanking on the one guy. No, Jeff Ross and Dave Attell. They have a thing on Netflix. It's only 3 episodes called Bumping Mics.
I don't think I've seen it.
Okay, it should still be on there. Because a lot of times, like the stand-up specials on Netflix, especially if they're a Netflix original, they usually never go away.
Yeah.
That one is so funny and it's so different. They are. Each episode's like 20 minutes to a half hour, but it's all improv.
Yeah.
They both get on the stage and then they just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of appearances, guys that are no longer with us. Gilbert Godfrey, Bob Saget, are both on there at one of the episodes. But man, those guys are so funny. Like I'm a huge stand-up fan.
Yeah.
I have low-key said there's a comedy club near us, by the way, called Go Bananas. They've got shows every week, so if you ever want to go, you
Nice.
can usually get free tickets.
Nice.
Yeah, so let me know. But
I'd actually love to.
it's a funny time. And the thing is, it's what's nice, and I'm giving them a plug, by the way, so shout out to Go Bananas Comedy Club. I was talking to two of the guys that work there. I cannot, again, remember their names, unfortunately. One is Andrew. I know that. So if I see him, I'll let him know about this episode. But the cool thing with them is they'll have established comedians, none of your big names. They had a guy who was like a writer on Tosh.0 for like all the seasons of Tosh.0. So that was cool. Like you wouldn't recognize him, but his body of work is out there. And then they every Wednesday do Pro-Am night. So even if you have never done comedy before, you can go up there. It's sort of like the karaoke of comedy.
That's got to be good.
And yeah, I've sat there because there's times where I'm like, in my head, I know what's funny. I think my sense of humor is dependent on the audience. But like, I don't know if you're this far ever down those rabbit holes, but if you think you're a funny guy, do you ever sit and be like, I really wish I wrote that down?
Yeah, sometimes. I think I've never seen stand-up live, and
Really?
I've always wanted to go.
Wow.
Like, it's one of those things that I've always wanted to do. So I think, yeah, if you get me tickets to that would be unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to do
On a
that.
night off, I would for sure go. Me and my girlfriend, we love, like, I'm sure me and my girlfriend have watched every stand-up comedy on Netflix at this point. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to see it live.
Okay, so we were talking about Rogan and podcasts. Do you have any like go-to? Like I've never been to stand-up, but if I could see 1, 2, 3 comedians, who would they be?
Well, obviously there's like the big guys like Chappelle, and I think going to see Rogan would be good because like he has his few specials on Netflix that are
Yep.
that are pretty good.
Triggered.
But I think yeah, that's a good one. And then yeah, so probably Chappelle, Rogan. I'd love to see like Andrew Schultz.
Yeah.
Theo Vaughn, like you said. Probably Tim Dillon as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any others off the top of my head, but yeah, no, if I saw any of those names, I would 100% go. But I think going to like one where people just go up, and even if you're not a comedian, go up there, I think I'd still find it hilarious just to see people just fall on their face sometimes.
It's so true. There were a couple. We went to some over the summer, and like some people do bomb, but
Yeah.
like it takes guts to get up there. Man.
It's got to be one of the hardest things to do. Just
Yeah.
go up there and like you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable state. And I think it's like you can kind of relate it to goaltending a little bit. Like when you get out there, there's no hiding. Like
Yeah.
it's if you don't play well, everyone can see it. You don't have to be an expert to know if a goalie's not playing well, and you don't have to be an expert to know if someone's not funny. So I think it's similar there.
We'll transition to goaltending. Let me give you 2 more names that you didn't. Well, I guess 3. Tom Segura is one of the big ones. Bill Burr was here. You got a chance to see him in October, right before you guys came into town. How unfortunate.
Yeah.
And then a guy who I don't think is as big a name, Anthony Jeselnik.
Yes, I've watched some of his stuff. Dark but funny.
Yes,
Dark but very
so
funny.
there you go. So if you can handle dark humor, that stuff is great. Oh, Braden's about to jump in. Braden Ramsey, our producer.
Yeah, all of those guys are great. I like Bert Kreischer a lot too.
Yes. That's the name I was thinking. It was
I'm
on the
going
tip
to
of my
see
tongue.
him. It was actually my Christmas gift from my mom. Me and my family are going to see him when he comes to Rupp in April.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Lexington?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Nice.
All those guys. Love
Yeah.
them. Went and saw Bill Burr. Where was it? At Butler last year. He was
Yeah.
in at Butler up there. Went with a bunch of my friends. Great time.
Yeah.
Also, huge comedy fan. So
Yeah.
That's another podcast I listen to though. 2 Bears, 1 Cave.
Yeah.
That's always a funny one too.
You would like Rachel. She's our social media coordinator, and
Yeah.
that is her go-to podcast. So when we were making this, tail end of last season, we finally launched 2 for Chirping, which is our Cyclones podcast, and we had talked about it all season, and it was like, okay, the first thing is like, what do we want this to look like? Which I think, behind the camera, it's a little bit of a cluster in this room, but I think this is awesome. Like I like
Looks
our little
great.
setup. This thing, by the way, lights up, which
Really?
yeah, we thought it was going to be probably a bit cooler than it really ended up being. It's still neat. And a shout out to JoJo here, Joe Wallach, and the crew at Heritage Bank Center for helping get this room to be what it is. But like she was talking about 2 Bears, 1 Cave. I said, I'm like, if I'm going to be the host, I want this to be as Joe Rogan-esque as possible. And unfortunately, and again, I think this is a great set. We have these 2 sets of headphones that like I think we've used on 1 or 2 episodes. None of the guys really like to use them. I do. I think it just helps with the sound because I don't know, we're avoiding these other things, but I like those. I think there's an opportunity for this in the summer to transform. So what I'd like is in front of us, back behind this camera, to be like a TV.
Yeah.
So like, you would tell the producer like young Jamie on Joe Rogan.
Bring it up.
Bring it up. Bring it up. Let's see.
Yeah.
And we would just laugh. I don't know if the drinking and smoking can happen on here.
Maybe in the off season.
Maybe in the off season, yeah. Yeah, but all the guys are like skipped out of town. I'd have to see what Viber's drink of choice is.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys that would be here. All right, so we're talking a lot about comedy. You mentioned goaltending, which I think is so like fascinating right from the get-go because we know the story. Well, you're 23 years old, so I'm going to guess that you're one of those kids that started skating really young, had the opportunity to play hockey growing up. Here you are now. That's the story I think everybody knows. Here's what I want to know is twofold. Were you a goalie the whole time? And two, I played hockey growing up a bit. Everybody did, right? And what stuck out to me is like the guys that are scoring the goals and doing the sellies and like the crowd is so behind them. And it's like, that's what I envisioned as a kid. Like, oh, what would it be like to score a goal in a hockey game? You clearly have different, you saw something different in the game to decide that you want to be the one to prevent the goals. You want to be the guy that, and at the same time, deals with the pressure of getting scored on. So just kind of walk me through that whole journey.
Yeah, so growing up, like you said, skated from a young age, and I was a player to start with. And then I think I switched to goalie when I was probably 9 or 10. And I think at first, so I grew up with a older brother who kind of got me into hockey, and I have a twin brother as well. So the older brother failing got us into hockey, and it was we grew up in a cul-de-sac, and it was always road hockey. Like no matter what, after school was always road hockey, and I think a big part of it was I just loved the gear. Like I grew up in that era in kind of BC where Luongo was the guy for the Canucks.
Yeah.
And I just loved the gear, loved his mask, and like Luongo was he was unbelievable when he was in Vancouver, and he's a Hall of Fame guy. And just seeing him just perform the way he did, and when you bring up the Canucks, in that it was always Luongo, the Sedins, Naslund, Burrows. But Luongo is always kind of the first guy when you think of the Canucks. And I think probably growing up with a twin brother, like it was probably wanted some attention. Just, I want to be a goalie. Like I want to be different, because like me and my brother were always the same. Like my mom always dressed us in like the same clothes, different colors. Like we're always the same. It was always all like Will and Beck, and like we're always together. So I think probably just wanting to be different and want a bit of a different path and kind of be my own person. I think that probably played a lot into it. And I remember like I was a pretty good player growing up, like when we were really young, and no one really wanted me to switch to goalie, but it was something I wanted to do. And my parents are great. Like my dad didn't play hockey, my mom never played, so we were kind of like a relatively new family in the game. And so they were never pressuring us. Oh, you have to be players. Oh, you have to do this. You have to do that. Like it was always me and my brother, me and my twin brother, me and my older brother that were kind of pushing and wanting to do different things. And whether it was mini hockey in the winter or street hockey in the summer, like we were always the ones who wanted it. Like our parents never wanted it more than us. I think that's a big part of why I still love the game so much. Like it was my choice to love the game, not theirs. And I think you see that a lot of time in hockey parents nowadays, where they want it more than their kids. And and their kids can be good, like they can be unbelievable because their parents are pushing them into these situations. Yeah. But as soon as they get to juniors or major junior college, it's like they realize there's so much else to life than just hockey. Like this isn't my passion. This is my parents' passion. That's why you see so many guys fall off. But I think when it's the kid's passion, and he wants to play and he wants to get better, and he's the one pushing, oh, I want to go to the gym, I want to be better. I think that's how you kind of maintain that love for the game.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
The parenting thing. I almost feel like, to be honest, I felt like I was that way a bit. My brother and I, we grew up playing, and he started at a younger age. So when we started, he was 6. So, he got into it, and then I noticed he was getting really good. And so my brother and I don't know if you and Will are the same way, but he was my best friend growing up, and we were separated by about 8 years in age, but then as it, my mom and dad, they both had full-time jobs, and I started taking him to games more, but I feel like I fell into that trap of like watching him and like I know you can do this better, I know you can do that better, and like he doesn't play anymore, and he's doing great, but it is one of those things, I see it and I look back at myself and think, oh, I could have been better there. But I also, like, you see it in parents, like, and I've heard stories, and I'm not trying to make this like a lesson for anybody out there, but I mean, I've heard stories from guys I grew up playing with that like they quit and they hate the game.
Yeah.
Because like I know somebody whose dad, like if they played bad, like the dad would give them like the silent treatment on like the 2-hour drive back home.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember like growing up, if me and my twin ever had a bad game, it was never like if we were like, we would be mad at ourselves.
Right.
And we would always say like, oh, like that just wasn't fun, I didn't play well. And my dad would always say, oh, if you're not having fun, then stop playing. Like it's like, we want you to be happy, so if you're not having fun, then stop playing. And it was like, well, obviously I'm not going to stop playing. Like, I love the game. But he was never the person who was pushing. He was never the person saying, you need to be better. Like, I don't think he's ever told me like, oh, you need to be better. You need to be better at this. Like, he's just, if you're having fun and you love it, then keep doing it. But if not, like, find something else you love. Like, there was never pressure from above to be good, or never pressure like that. Like, that always came from us and us wanting to be better and wanting to love the game.
So you've obviously had so much success to this point, but it comes with adversity, right? Like there's got to be a moment because you decide that, hey, I'm gonna be a goalie now. And you mentioned you got the full support of mom and dad. Did there can you remember? I don't know if it would have been what for you guys. Is it the same as us? It was mite, peewee, squirt, bantam, midget.
Yeah, so it went like hockey 4, Atom, Pee-wee, Bantam, Midget.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think mites is the equivalent to Atom.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you would have, I guess, would it have been probably a couple of years before Bantam that you would have been a goalie, right?
Yeah, it would have been in Atom. Atom
Okay.
first year was my first year as a goalie.
Do you remember, like again, talking about adversity, there's got to be like at least one game that didn't go well?
When I was younger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember one game. We were in like a Christmas tournament, and I didn't play very well. And I remember the coach pulled me, and I was just so beside myself. And I was like,
Is that the first time you remember getting pulled?
yes, it is. And I just remember like visibly showing like how angry and mad I was and upset about the game. Like when I was sitting on the bench, and the only thing my parents said to me is, like, you can't, like, you got to have better body language than that. Like it's you can't show that you're that upset. Like, and I just remember that being like, oh yeah, that's probably did not do the right thing there. Like, I think I was like laying on the bench or something like that. I mean, I was probably 9 or 10, so I was having a bit of a temper tantrum. But I remember that. I remember that moment.
Is man, that's got. So I'm thinking about that because trying to imagine, especially in those emotions, like as a kid. It's like, I'm sure what's going through your head is like, oh, I'm that bad. Like, I'm not good enough. Like, I couldn't stay in. I mean, how did you, and I think it's really cool that your parents, the only thing, they're not sitting there going, oh, you should have squared up. Dad's not standing in the basement. Like, here's how you do this. Like, but it's cool that the one thing they talk about is body language. Cause that's part of who you will be in terms of character. Right?
Yeah. So
like, at what point did you, I guess, understand that? Because obviously everybody knows, or it's, I don't know if I want to use it as like a cliche or the rap on goalies is like, oh, they're always the weird characters, right? Like they're in their own little world. And I don't know that that's always fair to say, but there is something to be said for your mentality has to be a lot different.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably part of the game that I've struggled with a bit in my career is like, being a goalie, there's the stereotype that goalies are weird and like you kind of have to be a little bit, but like growing up, I was never like the weird, quiet kid who was the goalie. Like I was always like, I always loved the locker room, loved being a part of it, loved being with the guys. And I think that's somewhere that I've had to kind of choose and make kind of the conscious decision to kind of put my walls up a little bit and like have that ability to like, not pretend, but like be the weird one that's quiet. It's like I find like, especially in my early kind of junior days, it was like I always wanted to like be a part of it and be part of the fun before the game where guys are just kind of giving it to each other and all that stuff. And I found that like I had to kind of make the conscious decision that, okay, like I can't be a part of this sometimes. Like after games, on practice days, yeah, like do whatever you want. But on game days, like you have to kind of be in your own little world and be in your own little bubble. And it's something that like I've had to try to do. It's not something that I grew up like, oh, I was always the weird, quiet one. It's like it was something that I had to implement into my game and into my life to be able to just put the walls up and live my own bubble on game days and not kind of do some of the things that players are able to do in terms of like kind of mess around and I don't know, get warm and laugh and have fun. Like for me, it's like, okay, like as soon as you get to the rink on the game day, it's time to go. Like this is your job. It's time to work. And once that's over, then you can have fun and enjoy it and kind of hang out and mess around with the guys. But yeah, like as soon as I get to the rink before practice even too, like it's okay. This is my job. I'm here to work. And then after I can have some fun.
Now, that's a conscious decision. Like, did that come as a result? Because I feel like you're no different, you know, in the sense of like every goalie is really dialed in day of game, you know, certainly if they're going to start, right? Yeah. Is it like, was there a point in your career, whether it was youth hockey or, you know, junior pro, that you transition to being that person? Did you learn, I guess, from mistakes? Like, did you notice like, oh, maybe I'm too loose, like the day of games, I'm still messing around with the guys?
I think my career kind of took a turning point after my 18 year in the WHL.
Okay.
I think that year didn't go as I wanted. It was kind of my first kind of year where it was like, this can be like the starting job can be yours type thing. And I think I was a little bit too busy trying to like have fun with the guys and make sure like I'm part of it and like this is fun and like I'm a part of the group and stuff like that. And I think I lost focus on like kind of what my end goal was. So I think my 19 year I really dialed it in and I ended up playing like, I think in the WHL, I think we played like 68 games and I think I played 64 of them that year. And I was like, it was a turning point in my career. Like if I didn't have that year, I probably wouldn't be where I am. So I think like just looking back on that year, like I made the conscious decision in like probably August of that year where it was like, okay, like this is a make or break year. Like this is important. Like I know the kind of goalie I am. I know what I can do, but I haven't shown it yet. Like I can be as good as I want in practice and in the summer, but I haven't had that breakout year where it's like, oh, like this guy can be a starter. So I think that was like the year where it was like, okay, time to turn it on, like time to show everyone what you can do here.
Well, when you started pro, like you were in the AHL to begin, and I feel like that breakout year you're talking about is something all the guys that get to pro seem to have at least one of them.
Yeah.
And whether it's, you know, a breakout year in junior or college, I think more often than not it's junior, and they get that breakout and all of a sudden now they're on a radar to be, you know, a late draft pick and, you know, previously weren't. And I know you weren't drafted, but immediately you're on an AHL deal with the Chicago Wolves. Like, did you notice phones ringing more after that year? Like, at what point, you know, because you're referencing your 18, 19 seasons, like, you know, as an 18 and 19-year-old, at what point did you know that calls were coming? Because, I mean, was college ever considered for you, or did you feel you were going to immediately jump to pro?
Yeah, there was talk, but, like, in my heart, I always knew, like, I just need to get a foot in the door, and then I can show what I can do. Like, I think, like you said, I was never drafted. I was never a high pick. I was never that. But I was going to, like, development camps and stuff. I went to one after my 17 year in the WHL. I had a pretty good year my first year. Like, not amazing, but, like, good enough to get a sniff. I went to the Canucks training camp, and 18 year was kind of the year that was the wake up call because I didn't get any invites after my 18 year.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, like something needs to change here. And then after during my 19 year, when I started stringing games together and the new head coach came in for try, and it was Kelly Buchberger. He was captain of the Oilers, and he was a massive part in my career, just showing, like, I remember my 18 year, like, I got pulled a lot, and I was always looking at the bench, like, as soon as a goal would go in, I'd look at the bench knowing, like, I might be getting taken out here, like, type thing. And I remember my first couple of games that 19 year, and I would get scored on and look at the bench, and Bucky wouldn't even be looking at me. So he just kind of, he showed me that he was confident in me and that I can do it. Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I ended up playing, I think I played every game but one in the first half. and he just, I remember we had a 3-3, and it was Kelowna Friday, in Kamloops Saturday, back in Tri Sunday. And Kamloops to Tri's 10 hours.
Saturday to Sunday?
Yeah. So our third game was in Tri against Red Deer.
Is that an afternoon game?
Yeah, it was a 5 o'clock game. We got into town at probably 8 a.m., went home, slept for a couple hours. I wasn't expecting to play. Like, he told me that the other goalie was going to play. Yeah. And he called me when I woke up from my nap, and he said, "You want this one?" And I was like, sure, like, may as well. So I played that game, and that just, like, he just showed me that, hey, like, you're our guy. I don't care what happens. Like, you're going to be our guy. And that just kind of instilled the confidence that I can play every game and play well. And, I just think that 19 year was just pivotal.
So, like, fast forwarding, and I told you this off air that I wanted to ask you. I mean, that is, anytime you see a goalie in the net for the third day in a row, it's foreign. It has happened. We've seen it happen at this level too. I remember, so there was the one day I was in the office when you got called up to Roch, and of course you're on an AHL deal with the Amherst, and to no fault of their own, something happens, they need somebody. You understood that when you signed that deal, that you might be in a taxi a lot, or in this case your car, and dude, we had a home game that night, and I remember because like part of our broadcast is during intermissions we will read the out of town scores. And, we'll take a look at what's going on in the affiliation. And I saw your name come up, and I think it was the second or third period. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, how is this guy playing?
Yeah.
So give me your rundown on that day, because like I said, I saw you in the morning after morning skate when Painter called you in, and he's like, hey, Roch needs you. Like, I think his words were, Roch needs you like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, so I'll give you a breakdown of that day. So we were playing Indy back to back that weekend here, and I was gearing up I was kind of expecting, like, I want to play both games against Indy here and have a good 2 solid games, get 2 wins here. So we had morning skate, felt good, and then a little more backstory actually. So my truck was in the shop. So
that's right.
So my truck has been in the shop all week. I was getting the transmission kind of looked at. And so I was heading back from morning skate. I was in the truck with Carano and Passer and Macker, and we're all driving back, and we're about to get off at the exit to get to our place. So we're 25 minutes from the rink, and I get a call from Painter, and immediately I know, like, something's going on. So I answer the call, and he says, hey, like, you need to go to Roch tonight. Like, you need to have left 10 minutes ago, like you said. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. Hang up. I'm like, oh. And I started to think about it. I was like, A, I don't have my truck. B, my gear's at the rink, which is another 30 minutes back, 30 minutes to the apartments to pack up some stuff, and then I got to go. I'm like, that puts me an hour away from leaving. That puts me in Rochester at like 8 p.m.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh.
Game's at
so
7.
Immediately call Painter back. I'm like, Painter, couple issues. Don't have my gear. Truck's in the shop. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. He's like, all right, I'll get someone to pack it up here. So Druzy packed up my bag at the rink because he was still here. And then I was going to go, my truck was at a place right beside a car rental place. So I got Carano to drop me off at the kind of complex where the place was. And I was like, you know what? Before I go get a rental car, I'm just going to go and see if my truck can be driven right now. I'm just going to go ask because I need my truck. So I run into the place. I'm like out of breath. I'm like, hey, like, is my truck fine? Like, it's the F-150. Like, can I drive it? And they're like, oh, yeah. Like, sure, you can take it. I was like, first of all, I'm pissed. You haven't even started working on it type thing. I'm like, but I'm relieved too. Because I'm like, hey, thank God. So I grab my keys, run to my truck, call Painter, let him know that I'm good. Went to the apartments. Me and my girlfriend packed up some stuff, and we just waited for Druzy to get there. And then we get on the road, and time of arrival's like, I think the game was at 7:05. Time of arrival's like 7:45. I'm like, oh man, like, this is gonna be tight. Like, no matter how you shake it, like, this is gonna be real tight.
Yeah, even if you're hitting like 90 miles an hour.
And it's raining. It's pouring rain that day.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you're going any faster than 70, 75. Mm-hmm. And we get on the road. I'm getting calls from Seamus. I'm getting calls from Seth Appert, the head coach there, asking what my time of arrival is. And I think we got a call every hour asking when we're going to be there. And the time was going down a little bit. Like, I think in the middle of it, it was like 7:25. We hadn't stopped once. We're like 5 hours out.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a call. We were stopped at the gas station, like going to the bathroom, grabbing a coffee, filling up quick. And I get a call, and Seth's like, hey, so you need to tell me your time right now because I need to make the choice whether we're going to get an emergency backup or if you're going to be here in time. And I was like, this is your guys' call, but my time of arrival right now is like 7:20. So I won't be there for puck drop, but like, hey, it's your call. And he was like, well, are you comfortable if you get there late, like not warming up anything to get your gear on, sit on the bench? I was like, yes, like this is what I want. Like I'll play type thing. So we get to Roch and things are actually looking pretty good. It's like 6:55 probably. So I know warm-ups are done. Okay. I get there and we're driving through downtown immediately. Didn't even think about it. Game traffic. So there's cars everywhere. My girlfriend's driving because I let her, or didn't let her. She likes it. She's a great driver.
Awesome.
So she's driving for the last like kind of 2 hours probably while I can kind of start to get ready for the game. And throughout the day too, by the way, I had like 9 coffees, no food. Because like usually after pregame skate, I'll go home, eat, nap, kind of relax, but didn't have time to get any food. So I'm 9 coffees on an empty stomach. So I'm like already kind of shaking. Like nothing's going great.
He's got the shakes.
And we're sitting there in the pouring rain in dead stop traffic, like 3 blocks from the rink. Oh. And it's just deadlocked everywhere. And I'm calling the trainer. I'm like, hey, like I'm on this street and this street. Like you might need to run out and meet me and help me with my bags and we can run into the rink. And finally, my girlfriend finds a way to get a different way to the rink. We show up, trainer runs out. I throw my gear on, get to the game. Sitting on the bench with probably 6 or 7 minutes left in the first was when I got there. And Hauser comes to the bench, gives me a little fist bump, and he's like, how's it going? Good, good. And then in the room, I could tell like something wasn't quite right. Like he was sweating a lot, and I'm like, I know Hauser. Like he's fine.
Can I jump real quick?
Yes.
I just because I love how detailed you're being. So tell me this: you get to the bench. There's a few minutes left in the first period. Are you now relieved at all? Like, because I know you said you're trying to mentally prep, but are you kind of like, okay, like I am here, like it's good. I'm going to be on the bench tonight. I'm going to back up. No worries.
Yeah. No, it was like a deep breath. It was like, oh, thank God, made it. And I kind of like in the truck on the way there too, I was like, all right, so I'll back up tonight and like assuming like they're playing tonight and then tomorrow in Belleville. So like I'm kind of mentally preparing for Belleville.
Right.
Because I'm like, I'm assuming I'm going to get the Belleville game. And that's what I need to prepare for. Like I'm on the bench, I'm here. And then second period comes around and Hauser comes to the bench. He's like, I can't feel my legs. I'm cramping. I can't even move my legs. I'm like, oh man, like this.
Oh no.
This can't be good. Like this can't be happening right now. And I told my girlfriend in the truck too. I was like, I bet you like something like the way the hockey world works, the way the hockey gods work, like there's a chance I'm going in tonight. Like I could just kind of had this feeling like when it rains it pours type thing. Like when everything's going like this, like there's a chance I'm going in. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it might. And sure enough, in the room, like there's guys coming up to me in the second intermission. They're like, hey, Warmy, like you gotta, Hauser's cramping bad. Like you gotta like be ready. And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. Like I'll figure it out. And sure enough, first whistle, Hauser got a puck to the face and his mask kind of came undone. So he comes to the bench and he's getting the trainer to fix it. And he looks at me, he goes, I can't move. And I look up and I saw Seth, the head coach, and he looks at me, he's like, get in, like, go on. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So step on the ice, get in there. And
they give you a minute or two to stretch.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, okay, everything's fine. First face off, puck goes up to the point. Guy comes down. I think I made a blocker save right off the start. Kind of play stays in zone, and then point shot goes off a guy far side and in. I'm like, oh, like first 15 seconds I'm in the game, one goes in, and I'm like, I know I'm good. Like I know that's a puck that's very difficult to stop. Like what point shot through traffic, I saw it and I kind of slid into it, but it went off someone, whether it was a D-man or their player, went off his hip and in the far side of the net. And I'm like, okay, like I know I'm good, but this is fine. Just got to lock it down. Yeah. And the game keeps going. And we ended up, I think it was like, I want to say 5-4 or 4-3 with like a minute left. And then they got one on the 6-on-5 on a one-timer from the right dot. And then they ended up scoring in overtime. And I just remember after the game, I was like, oh, as if that just happened. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And then, yeah, coach just came in and said, yeah, so like, you're the only goalie we're bringing to Belleville. We'll have an emergency backup there, but like, you're going tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I needed to be very quick memory after that game and just be
bet.
able to say, hey, like, got Belleville tomorrow. Just got to focus up for that.
What my God, I'm so happy you gave me everything, because like I was almost more enamored with what was going on in Rochester than what was happening at our game, because I'm like, how is this kid playing right now?
Oh.
Like, he did not even get in at the start of the game, because I was messaging I don't know if you know Ryan Har.
Yeah.
I never asked him how I pronounce his last name, but he's a great guy. He's the PR dude for Roch, one of the PR people. And I messaged him that day. I was like, when did Beck get in? And he's like, a little into the first period. Like, I was like, you mean like he's like, no, he got in the arena.
Yeah.
And like got to the bench during the first period.
Yeah.
And so, dude, okay, now I'm coming full circle with your conversation. You're a 9 or 10-year-old kid getting pulled for the first time, throwing a temper tantrum on the bench. You're a 23-year-old getting thrown in because a guy's dehydrated and cramping in a game that you weren't even there for the start of. Emotionally, like, how difficult is that? Because the next day, and I know Belleville, I think, won in overtime, but I think you played really well in that game, made like 27, 28, 29 saves.
Yeah.
How emotionally challenging or mentally challenging is that game?
The Belleville one?
Sorry, the night before.
Yeah. It's hard, but it's as a goalie, it's something you have to be ready for, and it was something that it's not like I was surprised. Like I said, when I was driving to the game, I looked at my girlfriend. I was like, "Hey, like I got a feeling, like I got a feeling this might happen." So I was kind of like I was mentally preparing for Belleville, but also in the back of my mind, it was like, "Okay, like you still got to be ready for this game."
Yeah.
And I think the toughest part was the no food, no pregame nap, driving for 8 hours in the rain.
Well, yeah,
like that was the hardest part. Like mentally, I was fine, but physically, like my body was just it was physically hard.
I just don't know. Yeah, like I know House was cramping, but like, how are you not cramping up? Like, your ass had been sitting for like 7-8 hours in a car.
Yeah.
Just stationary.
I think he actually, because the other two goalies were out because they had the flu.
Yep.
So I think Housecat was just kind of getting the front end of the flu.
That's right.
So I think that's why he was cramping. And then obviously I had to go in there. I think the hardest thing too was like finishing that game, having a rush of emotions, still on an empty stomach, and being like, I got to play tomorrow in Belleville. We got to drive 4.5 hours throughout the night here to get there. And then I just got to be ready for tomorrow. I think that was the hardest thing. But like you said, I thought I played really well in Belleville. I think we lost 3-2 in a shootout.
Yep.
So I think I got third star that night. So it went well, thank God. But that was there's always something every year. There's always something that goes on where it's like, how does this happen? Like everyone thinks like pro hockey is so dialed, like everything happens, like everyone has notice, like everyone's well rested, everything's good. But like behind the scenes, like there's chaos that happens.
Yeah.
And there's situations, especially in pro hockey, because it's like it's not like a football where you got your practice team who's always there and you can just say like, oh, like this guy's not feeling well, like just jump in kind of thing. It's like I'm in Cincy, 7.5, 8 hours away from Rochester.
Yeah.
And there's times when after pregame skate at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m., you're going to have to jump in the truck and drive there.
Yeah. I don't know. Braden, what do you, because you were in the booth with me when we were looking at that. We're like, what is going on?
I was so confused. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. You talked about, the feeling of, I'm going to end up getting put in. And I feel like you hear it in baseball more often, right? Anytime like a guy leaves the game, somebody comes into right field and it's like 2 pitches later, balls hit that way right to him, like ball finds you all the time. How much respect, I think, do you get from the guys up there doing that, right? Like you drive 8 hours, you come in the middle of the first period like that. You're put into that tough situation. Obviously, I think everybody recognizes that these are a bunch of guys you haven't played with at all this year. Like how much, I guess, respect and like, how does that stuff go over in the locker room?
Yeah, I think it goes well. Like I think everyone knew the situation, obviously, because I wasn't there for warm up and stuff. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just like I'm gonna be the hardest on myself after a game like that, and everyone's telling me like, oh, like crazy situation, like not on you. But it's like for me, it's like I'm definitely gonna be the hardest on myself in a situation like that. But I think the biggest thing is like like personally, when I get into that game there in the third period, it's like, I think I had the thought, I was like, I wonder if these fans think I'm an e-bug. Like, I wonder if they know I'm signed with the team. Like, I wonder if they like, I don't really know what people are thinking. I'm like, because it's not like I'm not a staple in the organization. I haven't been here forever. We're like, oh yeah, that's him. He's from Cincinnati.
Right.
Like, he's
House
signed with
would
us.
be that
Yeah,
guy.
exactly. So I'm like, it's my first year in the organization. Like, I'm like, do you think they think I'm an e-bug? Like, I'm not sure what they're thinking
Yeah.
right now.
Oh my gosh. Here's a good question, or at least I think it is. Which Braden had a great one there too. Does it sometimes help you talk about hockey gods? Like, does it help to not in the moment? I know you wouldn't agree with this in the moment. Nobody would. But like last year, you were in Norfolk, and like, listen, let's just call it for what it is. Like, they were not good last year. They've been terrible this year. Like, they are going through things that they're trying to figure out as an organization. I think it's hard in the ECHL to say that a team is going through a rebuild, but that's kind of where they're at. Does it almost help to have had that experience? Because overall, I think you were 7-10-1. So, like, you weren't terrible there, but, like, you knew you were going to see 30, 40, sometimes 50 shots a game. You knew the team in front of you was just not, where they wanted to be, I'm sure. I can't imagine a ton of happy bus rides. I can't imagine a ton of happy intermissions in the dressing room. Like, so in the moment, I'm sure it's like, man, this sucks. But then in hindsight, when you go through an adverse situation like Roch or like any game here, like, I mean, obviously you know this, like you were pulled at the beginning of December in a game against Toledo. Does it help to have gone through, sort of peaks and valleys like that during your hockey journey?
Yeah, for sure. I think as a goalie, like you need to take everything that happens in your career as a lesson, and you need to take everything for what it is. Like you said, that game against Toledo, it's like when I think about that game, I don't think of it in a negative way. I think it's like, okay, it's teaching me something. Like what is that teaching me? And like you said, in Norfolk, like there was a lot of tough nights in Norfolk where we'd get on the bus and it would just silence, where it's like, man, like what is going on here? Yeah. But I think in hindsight, like you can look back on situations and be really grateful for the situation I'm in now, being on this Cincinnati team where we had a really great start and we're doing well. And same thing in Roch, like they're doing great, and Buffalo's got great things going on there too. So it's like from top to bottom, like it's all positive. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, when you can look at something and just be grateful for where you are and what's going on, I think, like you said, it helps a lot.
Did you have to remind yourself at any point, like in Norfolk, just, hey, at the end of the day, like I could, because you use the word grateful there. I was just talking downstairs about this. Like that's something, and I got this from another podcaster. So not to, geek out here. There's a podcaster named Chris Van Vliet who does podcasts with like pro wrestlers or personalities through their movie personalities. And like, he said that every day he wakes up and finds 3 things he's grateful for, and he says them out loud. And I've been doing that now the last few days, and I hope I stay with it because it just helps, especially like even if you're having a terrible day. Like another thing I heard, and I talked to Lags about this because I know he's dealt with like sports psychiatrists and stuff, and Phil Laganov, who was on one of our previous podcasts. I was talking to him about like, hey, like say you have a bad day at the office, like don't let a bad 9 to 5 affect your 5 to 10 or 5 to whatever when you go to bed. Like you have to find a way to separate pieces in your life and like almost individualize items. So that way, like mentally you can still look to the good. I kind of use Norfolk as an example there. Like, okay, bad game, bad result, but I'm grateful that I can be a pro hockey goaltender. I'm grateful that I, make a living to do this. I'm grateful that I'm surrounded by, hopefully still good people. Are there moments, either last season or I guess in previous stops where like you have to look to the bigger picture? Yeah,
no, you said it best. Like I think compartmentalizing your life at work and your life at home is really big. Like there's in Norfolk, especially like when you get to the rink, like it's my job. I'm here to do a job. But when you leave the rink, you have to be able to leave it at the rink, or else it's going to affect your personal life and your well-being and happiness. Really, like if you take all that stuff home, like you're just going to be miserable. And like you said, you got to be grateful. Like I'm here, I'm playing pro hockey, I'm making a living, I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. Right. And I think, like you said, the biggest thing is just being able to, when you show up at the rink, this is my job, this is what I'm doing. When you leave the rink, you leave it there and you get home and you gotta be a good person. You gotta go grocery shopping. You gotta do everything you gotta do. And you have to find a way to be able to leave it at the rink. And there's obviously days where that's harder than others. Like I remember that the game against KZoo before Christmas when we lost in overtime.
Yeah.
That was a really tough one where it was like we had such a good thing going, and after the game I was like, what just happened? Like how did that happen? And like that was a tough one to kind of like leave at the rink. But like I told my girlfriend, obviously we lived together, like the next morning, it was kind of like right before Christmas break. I told her, I was like, hey, like we're gonna have a great Christmas break, but I need you to give me an hour and a half here to just think about this and be frustrated and be pissed off about this, and then I'll leave it and we'll have a great Christmas. But if I don't do this, then I'll be thinking about it the entire time. So you need to find a way to just like be able to think about something, watch some video maybe, and just put it to bed and be like, okay, that's done, move on.
You have a great way of like the compartmentalizing. That's the word. And like just hearing you kind of articulate your thoughts on all these things, you know, very mature for you know, a kid your age at 23. Still not turning 24 till what, April?
April, yeah.
Young man, you know. And you know, I talk about your maturity, and like, I think some people, often the younger guys, when you see them and you're like, man, he looks like wise beyond his years, it's because maybe they've seen things that, you know, other people haven't at their age. I want to ask you about this summer. I want to ask you about your mom, and you know, I know you mentioned her and your dad. You talk about your girlfriend a lot too.
Yep.
So what's her name?
Danica.
Yeah. We have to give Danica a shout out, because it sounds like she plays a really integral part of your life. And it's great when you have that communication. It's also great to have a great driver who can let you focus for a couple hours there.
Yeah.
But tell me about you know, what's going on. I guess first your mom's name and kind of everything that's happened.
Yeah. So my mom, Wendy, she passed June 8th this summer from a long battle with cancer. I think she was first diagnosed with breast cancer. Had to be the summer after my 19 year. She got diagnosed with breast cancer. So 3 or 4 years ago now. So she went through a long fight with that, and she was in remission, and she beat it for a while. And then I think it was 2 summers ago, it came back, and yeah, it was tough. But like our family, we've always been a really close family, and like you said, Danica, my girlfriend, she's been a crazy part of helping me through it, and it was a really hard summer, but yeah, we've been getting through it, and it was a tough holidays. Just first holidays without her. It was the first holidays that I haven't spent at home, so it was that was hard. But yeah, no, it's never easy, no matter what age you are, no matter when you lose a parent. But like I'm just grateful for my family and my brothers and my girlfriend and my dad. Like everyone's been so great, and yeah, we've all really come together throughout the whole situation.
I know you said June 8th. So last year, you know, your season ended relatively early, I believe. When were you back home?
So actually, I tore my MCL at the end of February in Norfolk, which put me out for the rest of the year. And at the time, like I just came off a different injury, and it's one of those things that happens, and you're like, oh, I can't catch a break. Like, but I've always said, like, everything happens for a reason, and sometimes at the time, like, you don't even believe it when you say it, because it's like, how can this happen? Like, I just came back from an injury, just played 2 really good games, 2 minutes left in the second game after coming back from injury, boom, MCL, out for the year. Right. But that being said, I said everything happens for a reason, and it was right after my injury that I got a call from my older brother saying, hey, like, mom's not doing very well, like this, like, I don't know how much longer she has, type thing. And the organization I was with they were fantastic in terms of saying, like, you can go home, like, you're good, like, you don't need to be here if that's going on and you're injured. So
is that Chicago's call?
Chicago, yeah. Okay. Chicago and Carolina. Yeah. Carolina, like the GM for Chicago, Wendell Young, he was unbelievable through the process. He kind of said, like, if like you're injured, I know everything that's going on with your mom. Like if you need to go home, like just go. And at the time when I got my injury, it was like, how does this happen? But in turn, like it helped me spend so much more valuable time with my mom in that whole process. So I went home, I think twice throughout that time when I was injured for a couple weeks, and was able to spend quality time with her and like just be around the house and just hang out with her and have conversations, talk about life and death, and just have those kind of needed closure conversations with her. And like I said, like if I didn't blow out my knee, that never would have happened.
Yeah.
And I would have had to just keep playing while everything's going on and not be able to go home at all. And I was able to go home and be with her and spend those last few weeks and months with her, which was amazing.
You mentioned, conversations about life and death, which I can't imagine. I think, I think what you speak to is obviously something that I don't know anybody who hasn't heard that the C word, that hasn't had cancer impact their life. But to have those conversations like you had them with her.
Yeah.
I mean, and not to be, too intrusive, and certainly, at any point if you don't want to talk about it, we don't need to, but I mean, are you willing to share? Like, is that something that your mother, Wendy, like, was she, I guess at peace, like she knew what was going on?
Yeah. No, me and my mom always had a very special relationship in terms of kind of being able to talk about anything and have these deep conversations. So when the time came when I was home, like we were able to talk about everything, and we were able to talk about the life she's lived and how she's so grateful to have done the things she's done and been the things she's been. And I think a big part of the conversations we had was just knowing what was coming and knowing the kind of the grieving process that was going to follow. And I think it's something that really helped me that I talked to her about a lot was knowing that like grieving and the pain you feel when a loved one dies, that just shows how much you love them. And you don't grieve unless you loved. And grieving sucks and it's horrible. But if there's no grief, then it means there's no love. And no one wants to live in a world with no love. Right. So grieving is part of love. They go hand in hand. They're the same coin. Yeah. And you just have to know that the grief part is because you're able to love. Yeah. And I think that's something that's really helped me just get through everything, is just knowing that those sad days and those tough days when you're thinking about her and wish you could just pick up the phone and call her, like that's because you loved her. And that's the main thing that's really helped me get through.
You, and I know you talked about the holidays being tough, which, thankfully for you, you have that support of your family. And I think what you said right there is hitting the nail on the head. Like, people don't grieve unless they have all those feelings. So, I obviously don't know. I can't imagine, Christmas was at all times smiles and laughs and maybe some tears as well. But, I know one thing that I hear pretty common is, it was your first holiday without her, but maybe there's a memory that makes somebody laugh, or a story that, reminds you about, your mother in a positive way, right? Yeah. Is there any one that sticks out, whether it was you or your twin brother or your dad?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it was a tough holiday, but it was awesome. Like me and my girlfriend were in Nashville with my billet parents from junior. They came out because they didn't want us to be alone. And so there was laughs, there was tears, there was the full spectrum of emotions there. But something that always happened at Christmas is she would always be in charge of making the mashed potatoes for Christmas dinner. And without a doubt, every single year, my dad wanted her to save some of the potato water for the gravy. And without a doubt, every single year, she would pour it out. The potatoes would be done, and she'd get the strainer in the sink, and without a doubt, right down the drain. So every year, we would have notes all around the kitchen saying, potato water, like potato water. And she would be staring at a note that says potato water, and she would still dump the potato water down the sink. And that's just something that it was always brought up around Christmas, and it was always something that would just make us belly laugh. Because without a doubt, no matter, you could be telling her at the time, we need the potato water. Yeah. That potato water was going down the sink.
You'd be pouring it out the sink.
It's going down the sink every time.
Do you, we asked you to have your mask up here. You have anything of her on the mask?
Yeah. So I have, do you want me to bring it? Should I grab it?
Yeah, why not? We'll be able to zoom in on this. We can make this work.
Yeah, so I always have all my family's initials on the back here, and I've always had the cancer ribbon because my mom's mom actually died of breast cancer as well.
Oh wow.
So I've always had that up there. I mean, it has a lot more meaning now. Like it always had great meaning, but definitely hits really close to home now. And then I have all my family's initials on the back, including my girlfriend Danica. And then I got this little bottom part on here this year, and it's just angel wings with her initials and the day she passed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a staple. These are all staples that will always be on my mask. So yeah, it's pretty special. I don't know where the camera is, but
Well, we got two luckily. So
beautiful.
Braden will make sure we take care of that. That's Wendy Warm, right?
Wendy Warm.
I love it. I love the alliteration too. What about your dad?
Randy
Warm. Okay, kind of close.
Yeah, and then my twin brother's Will Warm, so 2 WWs.
Yeah, I love it, man. How is your dad doing?
He's doing well. Yeah, no, he's keeping busy. Like he always has something on the go. He has his construction company, which always keeps him busy. But we're from a small town in kind of not northern BC, but Whistler, BC. So it's a big ski town. So he moved there after high school and was a skier, and so he's always snowmobiling, always skiing. So he's keeping busy.
Is he believing in global warming or like what's going on there?
I don't know his stance on that. Me and my dad, we have a special kind of relationship where we don't get into things like that.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, not that we don't agree on things, but there's some things that we tend to disagree on.
That's okay. Well, I think that's family, right?
Oh, 100%.
You always have that.
Yeah.
What's I want to, we are nearing the end of this conversation here, but like give me something, man. Somebody threw, I think it was maybe Lou, when he found out you were on the pod today, and he's like, ask him about conspiracies. Like, I go down these rabbit holes with some. I understand everybody can have their opinion. It's fine. I just have mine. So like,
exactly.
Is there one that you have that you're comfortable with sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I think like this all came up because we had a massive argument in the room about global warming the other day, and it was a pretty split decision in terms of who's for it, who's against it, who believes in it, and who doesn't. And I like to stay quiet in the room during these conversations because I have my own set of beliefs, and some based on fact and truth, some based on just what I believe and what I think is going on. But I think the bottom line for me is that no matter what the situation is, follow the money. The money always speaks. Like it's never just black and white. Like if there's always money involved. Yeah. And no matter the decision, anything that happens, you can say, oh, I wonder why they did that. But it's always due to money. It's always, you got to follow the money. It's like, yeah, maybe there's technology out there that we could have all water-powered cars, per se. Who knows? Yeah. But the amount of money that gas, the car industry, everything makes, there's no chance that ever gets implemented. And the reason that electric cars are coming in is they found a way to make money off that now. But there's no way that they ever do anything that's great for the environment if it stops the top dogs from making money. Yeah. There's always going to be money involved. The money's always going to speak.
Can I ask you one more question about that?
Of course.
I'm going to bring it into hockey.
Of course.
Okay. This is not a conspiracy. This is more or less, well, maybe it is. I doubt it. But, okay. How is it, conveniently, that a lot of players, we talked about having breakout seasons, how is it conveniently that a lot of NHL guys, the year they're going to become a free agent, have these great seasons and then drop off after they sign their big contract? And I understand that is not, like, we are not, by the way, talking about the McDavids and Crosbys and Malkins and Ovechkins of the world. I'm talking like a guy that sticks out to me, all due respect to, I know we're part of the Buffalo Sabres family. I loved this guy growing up, but Ville Leino was like signed or acquired by Philadelphia, because I grew up a Flyers fan, and had this amazing season with Philadelphia, amazing playoff run, signs a 7x7 with Buffalo, and is never that player again. Not even close.
Yeah.
And it's not injuries. Like, I don't know. You ever think, like, guys purposely are like, I don't know, it's probably not right to say purposefully, but, like, something is going on that these final years, there's just all this incentive, and then they get the big contract, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, I think there's probably a bunch of different aspects for that. Like, I think in contract years, a lot of the times agents will really pressure teams to be putting their guys in situations where they can really produce and perform and all that stuff. And then I think maybe once they sign that ticket, a team can kind of just forget about it because they know they got him for 6 or 7 years or 8 years or whatever it may be. So they're like, oh, like we can put him anywhere in the lineup we want now. Like he's not on a contract here. He's not trying to get anything. Like there's no pressure from the agent to be playing him on this first power play. Like maybe we'll throw him on the penalty kill. Like I think there's definitely for some guys maybe some aspect of they can just kind of sit back and relax. They know they have $50 million guaranteed. But then there's definitely an aspect of they might not be being put in the situations that they were when they're in that contract year. And like you said, there's the McDavids and Matthews and those guys of the world that they're always going to be in that top line. They're always going to be on that top power play. They're always going to find a way to get some points. Yeah. But there's definitely guys where like as soon as they sign that big ticket, the team's like, okay, we got him locked down. Now we can throw him on the third line center, try and even out the lineup a little bit. And maybe he's not going to get as many points, and he's going to get scrutinized for it because he didn't have the same season as last year. But there's definitely something to it. There's definitely a bunch of things that make that happen.
That's fair. There's a lot of factors. That's go where the money goes, though.
Yeah,
and that's a good one. Maybe that's what you leave with as a viewer or listener is go where the money goes.
Yeah,
but. That'll do it here. We had a long conversation, but a really good one, Beck.
Awesome.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome.